Welcome back to Bioethics for the week of May 4th. May the 4th be with you if you're weird. So it's probably a relevant sort of conversation. We're talking about space and aliens and that sort of thing, but this is probably your last full week of normal classes in high school, which is a weird thing to say when you're staring at a YouTube screen wearing pajamas eating Doritos at 3 a.m., but last full week of high school. Next week I'll have some sort of final wrap-up sort of thing, and then you'll have like a day or two to get your missing stuff in for this class and other classes. So for our last full week of class, we're going to finish up our talk about aliens. That's what we're going to do. So last week we talked a little bit about, do aliens exist, and if they do, does it matter? We looked at what most people cite when they talk about aliens probably existing, which is the Drake equation. And I ranted about it probably slightly too much, but I really don't like the Drake equation. That's just a fact. So that's my justification for ranting about it. You can accept it or not. Now, Drake equation, as you remember, calculates the number of civilizations in our galaxy which can communicate with us, or claims to. The things you actually can calculate that actually make sense are RFP and NE, because you can actually calculate the star formation, stars that have planets, and planets that could potentially support life. But the ones you can't really calculate or even really estimate are the ones like FL, FI, FC, and L, planets that could support life, that actually develop life, that actually develop civilizations, because either it's 100% or you assume only Earth and not all the other ones, so you get like a small percent, but neither of those are a true estimation. And if you put in either of those numbers, you'll find that every planet has life or just Earth has life, and so, I mean, the odds are really weird. There's no real numbers you can plug into there that work. That's why it doesn't make any sense. But I assume you watched the reasonable argument from Carl Sagan and Francis Drake about it, because that's a counter argument to the arguments I made, and so you could have a balanced perspective by looking at that. But we're going to talk about, what are we doing scientifically right now to look for them, and what are the ethical considerations if we find them? Well, we are looking for aliens. We're doing it right now. SETI is scanning the skies looking for extraterrestrial life. So you'll see here in the quote, the SETI Institute's first project was to conduct a search for narrow-band radio transmissions that would betray the existence of technologically advanced beings in the galaxy. Basically scanning for radio waves, because, patterned radio waves are usually created by humans, right? Like a TV show sent into space by radio wave, or like actual radio, or communications between spacecraft, or whatever. Radio waves are something we generate and send out. And so if there were other technologically advanced civilizations, it's reasonable to suspect that they would also be sending out some kind of radio waves, because the way you can transmit information is limited. All right, you can transmit information through a wire with electrons, right? Electricity, you can send pulses, whatever. You can transmit information by hand with like written words on paper or tablets or stone, or verbally, right? Or with sign language or whatever. Or you can transmit information through the air by using waves. The wavelengths could be radio or X-ray or microwave or all sorts of things theoretically, but it'd probably be radio waves since those are safe and easy to make. And of course we would scan for other waves too. But we find that on Earth, radio waves travel a long distance and they're very efficient for the energy, and they don't interact with like the environment like an X-ray would or like a microwave might. So radio waves seem to be the logical choice of wireless data transmission, besides like lasers, which we would see as well if they were pointing at us. So, and lasers don't work very well on a circular planet, right? Because you shoot a laser and it can't go all the way around the planet. It can only go to a distance you can see. And the Earth is in fact round, not flat, so that's why we don't use lasers to transmit information. We still use radio. So some people would argue something like, well, why are you looking for radio waves? How can you just assume another civilization would also happen to invent radio. And it's like, well, because no one invented radio. It's a thing. Radio waves are things found in nature. We just sort of discovered how to transmit and decode them, which any old technologically advanced civilization could and would do. That's why we're looking for radio waves, because I had that same question myself when I was 14, and my grandfather tried to explain it to me. And although he's a chemist, I didn't quite understand it. So let me know if you don't understand it. So there's basically these big satellite dishes scanning for radio waves, and then there's the Alien Telescope Array in the Cascade Mountains, surveying stars which could theoretically support life. Red dwarf stars are a good candidate because they're big and warm, but not super hot. Of course, that's a way over exaggerated explanation for that. But again, I'm a chemist, not an astrologist or astrophysicist or astroxenobiologist or anything. So they're big and warm, make life. Wow, right? So we are looking, and I think the implications matter not just for pure scientific curiosity, but also for the advance of our own technology or the salvation of our planet from an enemy. Those sort of things, which, although the chances are slim, the reward is great, right? It's like gambling, where the odds you win are pretty low, but if you win a lot of money, and eventually the math works out. So one attempt we've had, besides radio wave searches, is to send out Voyager 1. So we've got Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, which are spacecraft sent to the edge of our solar system and beyond. I'm not sure of the positions of them right now, right offhand, but Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 are spacecraft. They kind of look like what you picture a satellite to look like. They're spacecraft, and we sent them out to take pictures of all the planets in our solar system, and then go beyond the solar system and see what kind of pictures and other environmental data they could gather and ship back to Earth. Voyager 2, at least, is still gathering data and transmitting it. Voyager 1, maybe, I don't remember. So Voyager 1, on it, we included a plate made of gold. Now, that's expensive, right? But a golden plate doesn't corrode, unlike steel or copper, even stuff like stainless steel. All of those things will corrode when exposed to moisture, or when exposed to oxygen, or possibly when exposed to certain radiation. If there's oxygen present, they can form oxides, that sort of thing. But gold, under normal circumstances, by normal I mean even under many extreme circumstances, doesn't corrode. It remains pure elemental gold. So whatever you write on it won't rust or tarnish. Right, so on one side, it's the sounds of Earth recorded on what is basically a golden record. Instead of vinyl, it's gold. And so if the aliens were say as technologically advanced as us and didn't ever have record players, they could get this golden disc and look at it under a microscope and see the waves. And if they were smart enough to interpret the waves as sound waves, they could, even with a camera, scan all the sound waves and play the sounds of Earth. On the back side, there's lots of drawings, technical details about our location in the solar system. On one of these plates, there's a picture of a man and a picture of a woman. There's a human voice, sound waves, those sort of things, so that if an alien civilization found it, maybe they could come to understand that there is another intelligent civilization out there, and come to understand where we are. The problem would be that unless there's an alien civilization in space recognizing that this satellite's coming in and picks it up and intentionally studies it, it'll probably just crash somewhere. And even if it crashes on a planet that later develops intelligent life, this random gold plate's probably not going to stick around in pristine condition for the thousands of years that happens. But it's a long shot, but it's one attempt to communicate. So the ethical question about this is sort of, what is our duty towards other life? All right, because it brings up a lot of questions that you don't ask on Earth. Because on Earth you don't ask, what is our duty to the other intelligent life forms on Earth? Well, because there's not others. All animals have, say, a certain mental capacity, and some animals have much greater mental capacity, right? animals don't have abstract thoughts and calculations like we do. Like a dog never thinks about what it means to think, right? And a dolphin never thinks about what it means to think. But I mean, they can be trained to do very complicated things. They can learn things. They learn this smell means this, and you know, food looks like this, and not food looks like this. Like they have some intelligence, but they're not intelligent, right? They don't like do philosophy and math. So you can't ask the question on Earth, what do we do with the other intelligent species? What's our duties towards them? Because they're not real. There's no other intelligent species on Earth. When we say intelligence, meaning like, you know, the ability to sort of have meta thoughts about like what is thinking, like philosophical and mathematical reasoning and logic, which only humans do. That question's irrelevant. But when it comes to aliens, it's relevant because if there's aliens, why couldn't they be intelligent, right? So there's an ethical question, what is our duty towards other life? And is our duty different given the kind of life? Intelligent life seems somewhat clear. It seems like, well, if they're like people, you treat them like people. So if you know clearly how you're supposed to treat people, you know how to treat these things. When it comes to other life, it raises sort of questions about what we're doing now. Like, what if we found alien space pigs? What is our ethical duty to these alien space pigs? Well, they're alien life, so we have to just leave them perfectly preserved on their own planet and not interfere. Well, then should we do that with our own Earth pigs? Should we leave them in their environment and not interfere? Well, no, we farm them for food. Well, why not farm the alien space pigs for food, right? There's other questions like alien space bacteria. What's our duty towards it? Well, we should probably just leave it alone, right? Or maybe we should take it and capture it and study it. Well, should we do those things to Earth bacteria? What if the alien space bacteria is a plague-bearing sort of bacteria that kills all humans very quickly? Should we eradicate it, even though it's the only other alien life we've ever found? Because if it was on Earth, we would eradicate it. But if it's in space, should we leave it alone? Is it different? Right? So there's a lot of questions about what is our duty towards other life. And your homework's going to ask you about what is the difference between your duty towards intelligent life and non-intelligent life? And how can you reasonably make a logical argument about that? So I'm going to ask you about those questions. For me, the answer seems something like, if it's intelligent, it's a person. Or at least as far as ethics go, we should treat this intelligent species like people. And if it's non-intelligent, we should probably treat it as we would ethically treat Earth non-intelligent species. For what is the difference between an alien space pig and an Earth space pig? And by Earth space pig, I mean Earth land pig, right? Not much, except that it's not our planet, right? The church says this about non-intelligent life. The seventh commandment, which is like don't steal, basically, says you need to have respect for the integrity of creation, and that the mineral, vegetable, and animal resources of the universe cannot be divorced from respect for like their proper use. Meaning God gave us all these things to use, but we cannot abuse them. People are stewards, not kings, right? Like it's ours to use, but not necessarily ours to just wreck and destroy. So could we ethically use the resources of another planet? Yeah. So long as you're not destroying it and you're not just taking what's really not yours, right? You need to preserve goods and the use of goods for the common good of the future humanity, right? So it would be bad to just like kill all the pandas right now or something, right? Instead of preserving them for future use by humanity as well. And so in the same way, it'd be bad to just destroy alien space pig land instead of preserving its use and study for future men, for future humanity. But presumably you could use the resources and that sort of thing. It gets a little more complicated with intelligent life. Like, well, can we mine an uninhabited asteroid for iron? Probably. Why not? Can you mine a planet for iron when it's inhabited by intelligent people? Because then we're kind of taking their iron, right? That's a different story, right? Yeah, I mean, taking iron from the jungle, right? And probably fine. The tigers aren't going to use it, right? Taking iron from an alien jungle, well, maybe there's an intelligent species who could use it, and we're basically stealing it, right? Um, the church goes on to talk about non-intelligent life. Like animals are God's creatures, and we should treat animals with respect. Like animals exist. This sounds kind of crass. Like animals exist for our use, right? But that doesn't mean for our abuse, right? Why do we have dogs? Well, they're gentle and kind companions for us. Why do we have cats? I guess because they're fluffy, right? Why do we have cows? Well, cows provide food and textile, leather, right? Why do we have all sorts of animals? Well, many of them for our use, right? But that doesn't just give us free license to abuse them. Like it's okay to raise a cow and kill the cow, to eat it and use its hide for leather. It would not be okay just to torture a cow for fun, right? Well, and it probably wouldn't be okay to just make cows extinct just for fun, right? Well, and that basically applies to alien life too. Assuming it's not intelligent, then what's the difference, really, right? Um, so that's where we'll stop for today with non-intelligent life. Pope Francis's somewhat recent encyclical Laudato Si talks about this as well. But think about our duties towards extraterrestrial non-intelligent life, and think about our duties towards extraterrestrial life in general. You'll find your homework on OnCampus. It'll be another discussion. It'll be relatively similar to all the other ones. If you haven't done your service hours, submittals, or your service hours papers, get them in like today. I'm going to grade them on May 5th, just to give you a little bit extra time to turn it in. I'll put an M in there if you don't have it in. If you don't have it in, you need to get it in by like the end of the week, so that you can have your service hour grades in before we like give you a high school diploma, because that's in like soon. So that's it for Tuesday. I'll see you on Thursday.